The red lights flashed across the massive command center on Kepler Station. General Vextar stood in front of the giant screen that showed the galaxy. His 4 arms hung at his sides as he watched the red dots spread like poison across the star map. Each red dot meant another world lost to the enemy. The Zarathi were winning. They had been winning for 3 long years. Vextar was old for his kind. His blue skin had deep scars from many battles. His people called him the Iron General because he never gave up. But now, even he felt fear creeping into his heart. "Sir, we have lost contact with the Centauri defense line," said Captain Morek. The young officer's voice shook as he spoke. "The entire fleet is gone. Gone. Just like that. 50,000 ships and their crews all destroyed or captured by the Hive." Vextar closed his eyes for a moment. He had friends in that fleet. Good soldiers who died fighting an enemy that seemed impossible to stop. The Zarathi were not like other enemies. They were bugs, but bugs the size of buildings. They ate everything in their path: planets, people, even the metal from destroyed ships. Everything became food for their endless hunger. When they first appeared 3 years ago, the Coalition thought they would be easy to defeat. The Coalition had the best technology in the galaxy. Their ships could move faster than light. Their weapons could destroy entire moons. Their computers could think 1,000,000 thoughts in 1 second. But none of it mattered against the Hive. The Zarathi learned from every battle. If you shot them with lasers, they grew armor that blocked lasers. If you used missiles, they made shields that stopped missiles. No matter what the Coalition tried, the enemy adapted and came back stronger. "How many worlds have we lost this week?" Vextar asked. 12, sir, and the projections show they will reach the core systems within 6 months. 6 months. Vextar thought about his homeworld of Zelthara. He pictured his wife and children there, living their normal lives. They did not know that death was coming for them, death with wings and claws and an endless hunger. Around the command center, officers from dozens of different species worked at their stations. There were the tall, crystal-like Etherans who could speak with their minds, the Corvan engineers, with their metal arms and computer brains, the small, furry Pecti who could see through walls with their special eyes. All of them were the smartest, strongest, and most advanced beings in the galaxy. And all of them were losing. "Sir?" called out Dr. Yathara from her station. She was an Etheran and her crystal body glowed soft blue when she was thinking hard. "I have been looking at the old files again, the ones about the new species we found. The humans." Vextar turned to look at her. "What about them?" "They are very strange, sir. They have no special abilities like us. They cannot speak with their minds or see through walls. Their technology is hundreds of years behind ours. But there is something else." She touched her crystal forehead and sent images into Vextar's mind. He saw a small blue planet on the edge of the galaxy. He saw the creatures that lived there. Soft, pink beings with only 2 arms and no natural weapons. "What am I supposed to see?" he asked. "Look at their history, sir. These humans fight all the time, not just with other species, but with each other, and they never give up. Ever. Even when they have no chance of winning, they keep fighting." More images flowed into his mind. Humans throwing themselves at enemies with better weapons. Humans fighting in frozen wastelands and burning deserts. Humans who chose to die rather than surrender. "This is interesting, but how does it help us?" Vextar asked. "Sir, we have been trying to beat the Zarathi with better technology. But what if technology is not the answer? What if we need something else? Like what? Like this." She showed him one last image. A human soldier, alone on a hilltop, firing his primitive weapon at an army of enemies. The man was bleeding and tired, but he did not run. He stayed and fought until the end. "They call it stubbornness, sir. It means refusing to quit even when quitting makes sense." Vextar studied the image for a long time. Around him, the command center buzzed with reports of more defeats. The red dots on the galaxy map grew larger. "You think these humans might help us?" "I think they might be exactly what we need, sir. The Zarathi adapt to smart tactics and advanced weapons. But how do you adapt to someone who refuses to be smart? Someone who does the impossible because they are too stubborn to know it cannot be done? The general looked at the galaxy map again. The coalition had tried everything else. Their best minds had failed. Their greatest weapons had failed. Maybe it was time to try something completely different. Contact their government, he said finally. Tell them we need volunteers for a special mission. Do not tell them too much. Just say that the survival of many worlds depends on it. What kind of volunteers, sir? Vextar thought about the image of the lone human on the hilltop. He thought about soldiers who fought impossible battles and held impossible positions. Tell them we need someone who specializes in not giving up. Someone who can hold a position against any odds. Someone too stubborn to know when they are beaten. Dr. Yathara's crystal body glowed brighter. You really think one human can make a difference? No, Vextar said quietly. But I think one human might change everything. The red lights kept flashing. The enemy kept coming. But for the first time in 3 years, the Iron General felt something besides fear. He felt hope. The glass in Marcus Thompson's hand was empty again. He stared at it and thought about ordering another drink. The bar on Mars Station was quiet tonight, which was how he liked it. Most of the other soldiers were at the big party downtown, celebrating, something he did not want to think about. Marcus was 34 years old and tired of being a hero. The medal they gave him today was heavy in his pocket. Another piece of metal to add to his collection. This one was for holding the power station on Titan when the mining riots got bad. 72 hours with no backup, no supplies, and no way out. Everyone said he was amazing. Everyone said he saved thousands of lives. Marcus just remembered being scared and doing his job. You look like someone killed your dog, said a voice beside him. Marcus looked up to see Sarah Chen, another sergeant from his unit. She was small and smart and always said exactly what she thought. Marcus liked that about her. Did not have a dog, he said. You know what I mean? She sat down next to him. Most people would be happy about getting the Star of Valor. Most people did not earn it. Sarah ordered a beer and looked at him carefully. You want to talk about it? Marcus thought about the power station. About the miners who went crazy when the company tried to cut their pay, about the explosions and the shooting and the long, dark hours when he thought he would die alone in the tunnels. Nothing to talk about, he said. That was when the aliens arrived. Marcus had never seen anything like them before. They were tall, as basketball players, but made of what looked like living crystal. Their bodies glowed soft blue and they moved like they were floating instead of walking. Behind them came human officials in expensive suits who looked very nervous. The bar went completely silent. Everyone stared as the strange group walked to Marcus's table. Staff Sergeant Marcus Thompson? Asked one of the crystal beings. Its voice came from a small device around its neck, speaking perfect English. That is me, Marcus said. He did not stand up. After 3 drinks, he was not sure he could stand up straight anyway. I am Zephyra of the Ethran Collective. We need to speak with you about a matter of great importance. The human official, a thin man with worried eyes, stepped forward. Sergeant, these are representatives of something called the Galactic Coalition. They have come to Earth with a request. Marcus looked at the crystal being. Up close, he could see light moving inside its body like electricity and water. What kind of request? The kind that is classified above your security level, the official said quickly. But they specifically asked for you. Why me? Zephyra's crystal body grew brighter. May we sit? This conversation is better held in private. Marcus looked around the bar. Everyone was still staring. Sarah had her mouth open like a fish. Sure, why not? Today is already weird enough. The aliens sat down carefully. Their crystal bodies made small singing sounds when they moved. The human official stayed standing, looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. Sergeant Thompson, Zephyra said, what I am about to tell you must remain secret. Many lives depend on it. Okay. There is a war happening in the galaxy. A terrible war against an enemy that destroys everything in its path. Many worlds have Fallen. Many more will fall unless something changes. Marcus finished his drink. What does this have to do with me? We need a volunteer for a special mission, someone with your particular skills. What skills? The crystal being paused. Its light grew dimmer, like it was thinking hard. Our records show you specialize in holding defensive positions against overwhelming odds. You have done this many times, even when retreat was the logical choice. I just do my job, yes. That is exactly what we need. Sarah leaned forward. What kind of mission are we talking about? The human official looked uncomfortable. I am sorry, but that information is classified. We can only say that it involves a single person going to a very dangerous place and holding a position for a specific amount of time. Marcus laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Let me guess, the chances of coming back are not good. The chances are very small, Zephyra admitted. And you came all the way to Earth to ask me? We asked for the best soldier on your planet. Every person we spoke to gave us your name. Marcus thought about that. He thought about his sister Lisa, who taught little kids on the moon colonies. She always sent him letters with pictures the children drew. Stick figures of him in his uniform, with big smiles and the words, "Thank you for keeping us safe," written in crayon. This enemy, he said, slowly. How bad are they? Zephyra's crystal body suddenly blazed with light. Images flowed into Marcus's mind even though he did not understand how. He saw worlds stripped bare of all life. He saw cities turned to ash. He saw space battles with ships bigger than anything humans had ever built. The images hit him like a punch to the stomach. The enemy was not just big or strong, they were hungry. They ate everything and everyone, turning entire civilizations into food for their endless expansion. Jesus, Marcus whispered. They are coming this way, Zephyra said quietly. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon, unless someone stops them. Marcus closed his eyes. In his mind, he could see Lisa's classroom. Little kids laughing and playing, not knowing that something terrible was coming for them, not knowing that monsters from the stars might take away their futures. Why just one person? Sarah asked. Why not send an army? Because armies can be predicted, Zephyra explained. This enemy learns from every battle. They adapt to any strategy, any weapon, any tactic. But one person acting alone might be able to do something they cannot predict or counter. You want someone crazy enough to take on impossible odds, Marcus said. We want someone stubborn enough to refuse to lose. Marcus thought about his father, who worked in the car factories in Detroit until the day he died. Never missed a day of work, even when he was sick. His father always said that when you took a job, you finished it, no matter what. He thought about his mother, who raised 5 kids on a ranch in Texas after his father died. She never complained, never quit, even when the bank tried to take the farm. He thought about himself sitting in tunnels on Titan, scared and alone but still doing his job because someone had to. If I say yes, Marcus said, do I get to know what the mission actually is? Yes. And if I say no? Then we ask someone else. But our research suggests there is no one else quite like you. Marcus looked at his empty glass. He looked at Sarah, who was staring at him with wide eyes. He looked at the crystal alien who had traveled across the galaxy to find him. How long do I have to decide? The mission launches in 48 hours. Marcus stood up. His legs were steadier than he expected. Then I guess I better get some sleep. Tomorrow I find out how to save the galaxy. As he walked away, he heard Sarah call after him. Marcus, are you really going to do this? He stopped at the door and looked back. The crystal alien was watching him with something that might have been hope. Someone has to, he said. Might as well be me. Marcus stared at the drop pod and decided it looked exactly like a coffin. A very expensive, high-tech coffin that was designed to fall through space at impossible speeds. The Coalition engineers had painted it matte black, which did not make it look any less like something built to hold dead people. Sergeant Thompson, please step inside for final systems check, said the voice from the pod's computer. The voice was female and pleasant, reminding him uncomfortably of his ex-wife Janet. Even alien computers sounded like people who had disappointed him. Does it have a name? Marcus asked Dr. Yathara, who was running final checks on a tablet that looked like it was made of liquid light. Area 7, Autonomous Reconnaissance and Infiltration Assistant version 7. Great. Even the computer has a better rank than me. The inside of the pod was cramped but surprisingly comfortable. Soft padding covered every surface, and dozens of small screens showed information he did not understand. When he sat down, the chair adjusted itself to fit his body perfectly. Straps moved by themselves to hold him in place. Beginning neural interface connection, Area 7 announced. Marcus felt a tiny pinch at the base of his neck. Suddenly, information flowed into his mind. He could see through the pod's cameras, feel its movement through space, understand its systems, like they were part of his own body. "Whoa," he said. "The interface allows complete integration with Coalition technology," Dr. Yathara explained through the comm system. "Your suit, weapons, and equipment will respond to your thoughts as naturally as your own limbs." Marcus looked down at his armor. It was still recognizably human military gear, but the Coalition had made improvements. The helmet could see through walls. The rifle could shoot energy instead of bullets. The armor could stop almost anything and heal small wounds automatically. "How does it work?" he asked. "Very carefully," Area 7 replied. "Though I should mention that my humor subroutines were programmed by a Corvin engineer with questionable social skills." "Despite everything," Marcus smiled. "At least you are honest about it." General Vextar's voice came through the comm system. "Sergeant Thompson, are you ready for mission briefing?" "As ready as I will ever be." The pod's main screen lit up with images of a planet that looked like it had been turned inside out. What should have been green forests and blue oceans were now twisted masses of metal and flesh. Enormous structures grew from the surface like cancer, pulsing with sickly light. "This is Kepler 442b, the general explained. 6 months ago it was home to 12 million Galactic Coalition citizens. Now it is a Zerathi processing center." "What are they processing?" "Everything. The entire planet is being converted into biological components for their fleet. The atmosphere, the oceans, even the core minerals are being harvested and transformed." Marcus studied the images. The planet looked like a nightmare painted by someone who had never seen anything beautiful. "What is my target?" "The central processing facility." A red marker appeared on the screen, highlighting a structure that looked like a mountain-sized insect hive. "This facility coordinates the entire operation. If we can destroy it, we can slow their expansion significantly." "Okay. Where do I plant the bomb?" "You do not plant anything, Sergeant. You hold a position." Marcus frowned. "I do not understand." Dr. Yathara's crystal face appeared on another screen. "The facility is protected by adaptive defense systems. Any attack we send gets analyzed and countered within minutes, but we have developed a new weapon that requires time to charge." "How much time?" 6 hours minimum." Marcus laughed out loud. "You want me to hold a position inside an enemy fortress for 6 hours?" "Yes." "Against how many enemies?" "Approximately 3,000 Zerathi drones plus automated defenses." "And my backup?" "There is no backup, Sergeant. The entire plan depends on you maintaining a foothold long enough for the Nova bomb to reach full charge." Marcus was quiet for a moment. Through the pod's sensors, he could feel the Coalition fleet moving around him. Thousands of ships carrying millions of beings, all depending on one stubborn human from Earth. "What are my chances?" "Honestly?" General Vextar's voice was grim. "Very small, but you are the only person in the galaxy who might be able to do this." "Why?" "Because the Zerathi expect rational tactics. They expect enemies who retreat when the situation becomes hopeless. They have never encountered someone who refuses to be rational." The pod shuddered as it was loaded into the launch tube. Through the cameras, Marcus could see the darkness of space and the sick glow of the infected planet below. "Final systems check complete," Area 7 announced. "All weapons functional. Armor integrity at 100%. Medical systems ready. Ration supplies loaded for 72 hours. "I thought you said 6 hours. "Optimistic planning, Sergeant." Marcus checked his rifle one more time. It felt strange in his hands, lighter than it should be, but somehow more solid. The Coalition had improved everything about his equipment, but it still felt like the same basic tools he had used his whole career. Point, shoot, stay alive. Sergeant Thompson, came Zafira's voice. There is something else you should know. What? The neural interface works both ways. We will be able to monitor your vital signs and see what you see, but more importantly, we will be recording everything. If you fail, your experience might help us understand how to succeed next time. So no pressure. None at all. The launch countdown began. Marcus closed his eyes and thought about his sister, Lisa. He thought about her students on the moon colonies, drawing pictures of soldiers and writing thank you notes in crayon. He thought about his parents, who taught him that when you took a job, you finished it. 30 seconds to launch, Area 7 said. Any last words of wisdom? Marcus asked. Yes, the computer replied. Try not to die immediately. It would make the mission report very short. Thanks. That helps a lot. 10 seconds. Marcus gripped his rifle and felt the familiar weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Somewhere far above, Coalition commanders watched and waited. Somewhere far below, an enemy that had never been defeated prepared for his arrival. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2. Launch. The drop pod shot out of the Coalition ship like a bullet fired from the hand of God. Marcus felt his stomach trying to escape through his throat as the pod accelerated to speeds that would have turned him into soup without the advanced padding and inertial dampeners. Through the pod's sensors, he watched the infected planet grow larger. The processing facility looked like a metal mountain covered in moving parts. Streams of Zarathi drones flowed around it like ants around a disturbed nest. Impact in 60 seconds, Area 7 announced. Any suggestions for not dying? I recommend shooting the enemy before they shoot you. Brilliant tactical thinking. I also recommend staying alive for 6 hours. Even better. The planet's surface rushed up to meet them. Marcus could see individual drones now, each one the size of a tank and armed with enough firepower to level a city block. There were thousands of them, and they were all about to become very interested in his arrival. 10 seconds to impact. Marcus smiled the same smile that had terrified pirates and criminals across 3 star systems. Let us see what these bugs are made of. The drop pod hit the processing facility like a meteor and kept going. The drop pod crashed through 17 levels of the processing facility before it finally stopped. Marcus felt like he had been hit by a truck, then run over by the same truck, then maybe used as a football by the truck's bigger brothers. But he was alive, and that was more than anyone had expected. Impact successful, Area 7 announced cheerfully. You are now inside the primary processing center. I am detecting massive structural damage to the facility, which is good news for us. Define. Good news. You have created a hole that goes from the surface to level 17. This has confused the enemy defense systems significantly. Marcus unbuckled himself from the pod and looked around. The drop had landed him in what looked like the inside of a giant insect. The walls were made of metal and flesh mixed together in ways that hurt to look at. Strange lights pulsed through tubes that might have been veins or wires or both. This place is disgusting, he said. The Zarathi do not distinguish between technology and biology. Area 7 explained. Everything is alive here, including the walls. As if on cue, the wall next to Marcus opened like an eye and looked at him. He shot it with his rifle and it closed with a wet sound. Sergeant Thompson, came General Vextar's voice through the comm. We are reading your position. You are exactly where you need to be. The Nova bomb has begun charging. How long do I have to hold this position? 6 hours minimum. And how long until the bad guys show up? According to our sensors, you have approximately 30 seconds. Marcus looked around the chamber he had landed in. It was roughly circular with tunnel openings at 6 different points. The drop pod sat in the center like a metal egg, still smoking from its violent arrival. Not much cover, but he had worked. With worse. Area 7, can you seal some of these tunnels? I can overload the pod's power systems to create controlled explosions. This will seal 3 of the 6 entrances. Do it. The pod made several loud beeping sounds, then exploded. The blast was controlled and directed, collapsing 3 of the tunnel entrances under tons of debris. Now Marcus only had to worry about enemies coming from 3 directions instead of 6. The first Zarathi drone appeared 30 seconds later. Marcus had seen pictures, but seeing the real thing was different. The drone was the size of a small car, with 6 legs that ended in razor-sharp claws. Its body was covered in black armor that looked like insect shell, but moved like liquid metal. Multiple weapons pods sprouted from its back like mechanical flowers. "Hello, ugly," Marcus said, and shot it in what he hoped was its face. The energy blast from his rifle hit the drone and knocked it backwards. The creature made a sound like metal screaming, but it did not die. Instead, its armor shifted and changed, becoming thicker where the shot had hit. "Well, that is not good," Marcus muttered. "The Zarathi adapt to energy weapons very quickly," Area 7 said. "I suggest alternative tactics." "Like what?" "I honestly do not know. I was designed to provide technical support, not tactical advice." More drones poured through the open tunnels. Marcus counted 6, then 10, then stopped counting and started shooting. His rifle worked well for the first few shots, but just as Area 7 had warned, the drones adapted quickly. After 2 minutes of fighting, his energy blasts were barely scratching their armor. That was when Marcus did something the Zarathi had never seen before. He stopped using the energy weapon and started hitting them with the rifle itself. The first drone he clubbed with his rifle looked genuinely surprised. Its adaptation systems had prepared for energy attacks, kinetic projectiles, explosive devices, and chemical weapons. They had not prepared for a human with a bad attitude using their advanced technology as a club. "Sergeant Thompson," came Dr. Yathara's voice. "Our sensors show you have stopped using your primary weapon. Is there a malfunction?" "No malfunction," Marcus grunted as he smashed another drone with the rifle butt. "Just trying something new." The drones tried to adapt to his close combat tactics, but Marcus kept changing what he was doing. When they prepared for clubbing attacks, he started kicking them. When they adapted to kicks, he began throwing pieces of broken wall at them. When they adapted to thrown objects, he went back to shooting them with his rifle. "Fascinating, General," Vextar said over the comm. "The enemy adaptation systems cannot keep up with your tactical changes." "That is because I am not using tactics," Marcus replied, dodging a claw swipe and punching a drone in what might have been its stomach. "I am just making it up as I go." This was apparently a concept the Zarathi collective intelligence could not process. Their entire evolutionary strategy was based on analyzing enemy behavior and developing counters. But Marcus was not behaving. He was just reacting, improvising, and doing whatever came to mind first. After an hour of fighting, Marcus had turned the chamber into his personal fortress. He had used broken drone parts to build barricades. He had ripped power cables from the walls to create electric traps. He had even figured out how to make the facility's own defense systems shoot at each other by standing in exactly the right spots. "This is incredible," Dr. Yathara said. "You are not fighting the facility. You are making it fight itself." "It is all connected," Marcus explained, catching his breath behind a pile of drone wreckage. "The walls, the weapons, the drones, it is all one big organism. And like any organism, you can poison it." That gave him an idea. Marcus opened his suit's medical compartment and pulled out his emergency stims. Every human soldier carried drugs designed to keep them fighting when they should be dead. The stimulants were toxic to humans in large doses, but they worked by overriding the body's natural safety systems. "Area 7, can you analyze the facility's circulatory system?" "I can see the nutrient flow patterns, yes. Why?" "Because I want to give this place a very bad day." Marcus began injecting his medical supplies into the facility's nutrient lines. Human stimulants, painkillers, antibiotics, and emergency adrenaline all went into the alien biomechanical system. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The facility began convulsing. Walls that had been solid started rippling like water. Defense systems turned on each other. Drones that had been coordinating perfectly suddenly started running into walls or attacking empty air. "What have you done, General?" Vextar asked. "I poisoned it," Marcus said simply. "Turns out human drugs do not mix well with alien biology." The Zerathi collective intelligence was experiencing something new, chemical-induced confusion. For the first time in their species' history, they could not think clearly. Their perfect coordination fell apart as random thoughts and sensations flooded their shared consciousness. 3 hours into the battle, Marcus realized he was winning. Not because he was stronger or smarter than the enemy, but because he was more chaotic. Every time the Zerathi tried to predict his next move, he did something completely different. When they expected him to defend his position, he attacked. When they prepared for attacks, he hid. When they adapted to his weapons, he used furniture. When they blocked the furniture, he started singing. "Why are you singing?" Aria 7 asked. "Because it is annoying them," Marcus replied, belting out an old country song while shooting at drones with a weapon he had built from spare parts. "Look at their movement patterns. They hate it." The Zerathi had evolved to counter every known form of warfare, but they had never encountered psychological warfare conducted by someone who was genuinely enjoying himself. Marcus was having fun, and somehow that made him more dangerous than any weapon the Coalition had ever built. By hour 4, the processing facility was in complete chaos. Drones wandered aimlessly through corridors, bumping into each other. Defense systems fired randomly at shadows. The biomechanical walls had stopped responding to commands and were now growing in random directions. "Sergeant Thompson," General Vextar said, his voice full of amazement, "our long-range sensors show that Zerathi forces across the entire sector are behaving erratically. Whatever you have done is affecting their collective intelligence on a massive scale." "Good," Marcus said, reloading a weapon he had built from drone parts and wall cables. "Maybe now they know how it feels to be confused." The Zerathi had spent millions of years perfecting their ability to adapt and overcome any threat. But adaptation required understanding, and understanding required patterns. Marcus Thompson was not a pattern. He was chaos given human form, and he was teaching the galaxy's most efficient killers what it meant to be afraid. 2 hours to go, Aria 7 announced. 2 hours, Marcus agreed, smiling as he watched another group of drones walk into the electric trap he had built from ceiling, lights and floor tiles. "I think we can manage that." For the first time in 3 years, the Zerathi were retreating. Marcus Thompson sat among the wreckage of what had once been the most secure facility in Zerathi space. His makeshift fortress was built from broken drone parts, twisted wall sections, and several things he could not identify but which made good cover when stacked properly. He had been fighting for 6 hours and 17 minutes, and his body felt like it was held together with tape and stubbornness. "Sergeant Thompson," Aria 7 announced, "the Nova bomb has reached full charge. You have 30 seconds to reach minimum safe distance." Marcus looked around his improvised stronghold. In 6 hours, he had turned a sterile alien processing center into something that looked like a junkyard had exploded inside a nightmare. Broken machinery sparked and smoked. The biomechanical walls twitched randomly, still confused by the human drugs he had pumped into their systems. Dead and damaged drones lay scattered everywhere like the world's worst insect collection. "How far is minimum safe distance?" he asked. "Approximately 12 kilometers. Marcus laughed, though it came out more like a cough. "Area 7. I can barely walk 12 meters right now. There is an emergency evacuation pod in your current position. I took the liberty of assembling it from spare parts during the battle." Marcus looked where the computer indicated and saw something that might charitably be called a vehicle. It looked like someone had tried to build a motorcycle using only parts from a dishwasher and a lawnmower, then given up halfway through and decided to add rockets instead. "That thing will fly?" "Briefly, which should be sufficient for our purposes." 20 seconds to detonation, came General Vextar's voice through the comm. "Sergeant, you need to leave now." Marcus struggled to his feet, every muscle in his body screaming in protest. The stimulants he had been taking to stay awake were wearing off, and exhaustion hit him like a physical weight. But he had made a promise to his sister Lisa that he would come home. He had made a promise to the galaxy that he would hold this position for 6 hours. He had kept both promises. Now it was time to collect on them. The evacuation pod started on the 3rd try, making sounds that no vehicle should ever make. Marcus climbed on and pointed it toward the hole his drop pod had made in the ceiling 6 hours ago. The facility around him was still shaking itself apart, confused drones wandering in circles while defense systems fired at their own shadows. 10 seconds, Area 7 said. 5. Go. Marcus gunned the improvised vehicle and shot upward through 17 levels of damaged facility. Behind him, alarms were finally starting to sound as the Zerathi collective intelligence realized something very bad was about to happen. He cleared the facility's surface with 2.3 seconds to spare. The Nova bomb did not make a sound when it went off. In space, Marcus had learned, the biggest explosions were always silent, but he felt it through every bone in his body as a wave of energy that turned the entire processing facility into briefly bright as a star. The shock wave caught his tiny vehicle and threw it across the planet's surface like a leaf in a hurricane. Marcus held on and tried not to think about how many laws of physics he was probably breaking by surviving this. When he finally stopped tumbling, he found himself in a crater about the size of a football field. The evacuation pod was scattered around him in pieces, but the Coalition rescue beacon was still blinking cheerfully on his wrist. "Sergeant Thompson," came Zephira's voice. "Are you alive?" "I think so," Marcus replied, taking inventory of his various aches and pains. "Did it work?" "See for yourself." Marcus looked back toward where the processing facility had been. Instead of the mountain-sized hive of biomechanical horror, there was now a smoking crater that glowed with residual energy. The facility was gone. Not damaged, not disabled. Gone. "Holy shit," Marcus whispered. "Indeed," General Vextar said. "But that is not the most remarkable part. Our sensors are detecting something unprecedented across the entire Zerathi network." "What?" "They are retreating. All of them. From every front, every occupied world. For the first time in their recorded history, the Zerathi are pulling back their forces." Marcus closed his eyes and let that information sink in. "They are scared." "More than scared, Sergeant. Our intelligence analysts are intercepting communications that suggest the collective intelligence is fundamentally changed. They are experiencing concepts they have never had before. Doubt, uncertainty, individual thinking." Dr. Yathura's voice joined the conversation. "What you did here has created a ripple effect through their entire network. The chaos you introduced, the unpredictability, it has infected their collective consciousness. They no longer trust their ability to adapt to any threat. Because if they cannot understand one human," General Vextar added, "how can they possibly understand billions of them?" Marcus tried to stand up and decided that lying in the crater was perfectly fine for now. "So we won? The war is far from over," the general admitted. "But for the first time in 3 years, we have hope. The Zerathi have given us time to regroup, to plan, to build new strategies, and more importantly, they have learned to fear something they cannot control. What happens now?" "Now you come home, Sergeant. There will be medals and ceremonies and probably more speeches than you want to hear. But first, there will be medical treatment and rest and all the earth coffee you can drink." Marcus smiled at that. "I would like some coffee." The rescue ship arrived 20 minutes later, a sleek Coalition vessel that looked like it was made of liquid silver. As they loaded him onto a medical stretcher, Marcus caught sight of Earth through the ship's viewports. It looked exactly the same as when he had left it 2 days ago, blue and white and beautiful, hanging in space like a jewel. "Sergeant Thompson," said the Ethran medic as she worked on his various injuries, "you should know that your actions have been transmitted across the entire Coalition network. Every species, every world knows what one human accomplished here today." "Great," Marcus said. "More fame, just what I wanted." "Not fame, Sergeant. Hope. For 3 years we have been losing this war because we believed it could only be won. With superior technology or advanced tactics, you showed us something different." "What is that?" "That sometimes the most sophisticated problems require the most primitive solutions. That sometimes the best way to defeat a perfect enemy is to be perfectly imperfect." Marcus thought about that as the medical drugs began to take effect. "I was not trying to be profound. I was just doing my job. Yes, the medic said softly. That is exactly what made it work. Marcus fell asleep as the ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying him home to a galaxy that was no longer quite as dark as it had been before. Behind them, the Zarathi collective intelligence struggled with new and terrible concepts. Fear, uncertainty. The knowledge that somewhere in the galaxy was a species that could not be predicted, controlled, or understood. And in a classroom on the moon colonies, a teacher named Lisa Thompson received a message from her brother. It was short and simple like all his messages, but this time it ended with something new. Coming home soon. Love you. Lisa smiled and turned back to her students, who were busy drawing pictures of spaceships and aliens and brave soldiers who protected the stars. She did not tell them that one of those soldiers was her big brother, or that he had just saved them all from monsters they would never have to meet. Instead, she helped a little boy named Tommy Color in his drawing of a hero. The stick figure wore a uniform and carried a big gun, and underneath it, in careful crayon letters, were the words, "Thank you for keeping us safe." "Miss Thompson," Tommy asked, "do you think the soldiers in space are really brave?" Lisa looked out the classroom window at the stars and thought about her brother, who had never considered himself a hero, but had just changed the course of galactic history by being too stubborn to quit. "Yes, Tommy," she said. "I think they are the bravest people in the universe." And in the depths of space, the Zarathi learned what humans had always known. Sometimes the scariest thing you can face is someone who absolutely refuses to give up. The tide had turned. One human had changed everything,